Hey, everybody, welcome to Financial Fit. It's a podcast brought to you by Emmanuel Church here in Salisbury. And my name is Ted. I'm the executive pastor here at Emmanuel Church. And I am here today with one of my good friends and also amazing businessman in the community. His name is Darren Whitehead. Darren, welcome.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here today.
We're glad to have Darren here with us. And just to give you a little bit about Darren, Darren currently is the founder of an amazing organization called Whitehead Real Estate Executives. Darren founded that company many years ago, and it is one of the most successful real estate companies on the Eastern Shore. And you're like, Ted, what does that mean? Well, he's been voted Realtor of the Year multiple times, and his company has been Realtor of the Year on the Eastern Shore multiple times. And from that, he's also helped his son start another real estate company that manages properties, and they have won also awards over here on the Eastern Shore. And so Darren is one of the most respected men in our business community on the Eastern Shore, and he also sits on the board at Hebron Savings Bank. So Darren, again, welcome to Financial Fitness. And those of you that know me as Ted or Pastor Ted, I like to jump right in. So today we've got a couple of things we want to hit with Darren. And first of all, first thing that we'd like to know is to talk about is who Darren is. And so everybody's got a story, right? And the story that I know your story, it's an amazing story. Darren's one of my friends. He's also a great mentor to many people on the Eastern Shore. Darren, would you just take a few minutes and tell us your story?
Yes, I'd be glad to. My name is Darren Whitehead. Like you said, I live right here in Salisbury. I'm married. Me and my wife this June, we married 35 years.
Wow.
We have 4 kids, Alex, Austin, India, and Aiden. Got 2 grandbabies, Willow and Cece.
All right.
And another little girl expecting. So, we've definitely been blessed. We've been here. I've lived here most of my life. I'm originally born in Barbados in the Caribbean, and I came here when I was 7. My mom, and my dad didn't get married. My mom actually, left me in Barbados with my grandparents and took a big jump in to make my life better. She came here. She left me when I was 2, and then came back, got me when I was 7. Went through the process to bring me. So I didn't see my mom for 5 years.
Wow.
So it was definitely growing up in Barbados is very poor. I remember every morning having crackers and tea and having rice and fish. I remember there was times when we only had stale bread. My Uncle Bill worked at the bread factory, and he'd bring us stale bread, and we were very happy to see him riding down the road on his bike. And I remember one time I ate a little box of I think it's Pops. It's the little boxes that you get at the hotels, the cereal. And I remember saying, the kids in America eat it every day. I was so amazed.
Wow.
And my mom brought me here and to the United States, and she worked hard, and I had a stepdad, but he eventually left, and I commend my mom for raising 4 kids. I have 2 step brothers and sister from my mom's side, and she worked hard, and but we grew up poor here too. But at 10 years old, I remember I said, "Man, I don't like this," and I started cutting grass at 10. At 11 years old, I had a paper route. At 15, I got a job, and I would work 60 to 100 hours a week, including going to school. I said, there was I tell people, if you do today what others won't, tomorrow you'll live like others can. And
Wow.
it's just setting a principle down to help you move forward.
That's great, Darren.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's funny because I see you on Sundays and I see you throughout the community. And again, like I said, you're one of the prominent business people on the Eastern Shore. And you can look at somebody, but you never know their story.
And
You look at today, but you don't look at what it took for them to get there. And I love how you have become a mentor to so many people on the Eastern Shore. When I first came here nearly 5 years ago, you and I would still do have our conversations, and I'd learn from you and take notes. And I think this podcast is designed for people just like that,
Yeah.
to understand the journey, the financial journey of people, and how God has had His hands on all of us the entire time.
Mhm.
And so, I want to talk a little bit about your best financial decision that changed your life. And you just said you grew up not having a whole lot of things.
Right.
And from that perspective until now, if you were to pinpoint the financial decision that changed, that altered your life, what would it be?
Well, first of all, that saying, I'll do today what others won't so tomorrow I can live like others can't. Just having that work ethic, the work ethic to go and make things happen. Just doing your best, and whatever you do your best. And a couple things that I think have helped me dramatically, not just because this is a church podcast, but I believe when I started tithing, I figured out I couldn't outgive God. And I started tithing, and then I think that was a big part of me, where my success started taking off. The other thing I would say is having a mentor. Ed Wilgus, one of the most successful businessmen in this area, has been my mentor. I've met with Ed Wilgus once a month since May of 2003, 21 years. Because there's a saying, a wise man will learn from his mistakes. A wiser man will learn from someone else's mistakes. But the wisest man learns from someone's successes.
Wow.
So, when you have someone that will help you and see more in you than you see in yourself,
Yep.
that takes you to another level. I believe that as you're out there, because I use a little example. I say, if you have, like in myself, when I met with Ed Wilgus, he would say, "Hey, think about this, read this book, do this, do that." So I'd go and I'd come back and I'd say, "Okay, I did this, this, and this." And then he'd say, "Well, okay, you do this, think about this, try this." So I'd go back and I'd do it and I'd come back.
Yeah.
Because when I came back to him the next month, I couldn't say the same old, same old.
Mhm.
I had to say, "Okay, here's what I did here." And could you imagine just having a mentor and every month you're just getting better? Could you imagine where you'd be just in 1 year?
Yeah.
And that
Absolutely.
that is the secret. Everyone wants something right away. Success doesn't come right away. Success is a long journey, but it's just step by step.
Step by step.
Yeah.
And when we think of those step by step thoughts, and for you in the past, let's say 20 to 30 years, or even 40, but let's say, let's use 20 or 30. Can you pinpoint that one financial decision that you made that changed it all? And I believe you had said it was tithing.
Mm-hmm.
And I too, and again, this is while this is a financial fitness for, and it's brought to you by Emmanuel Church. This goes for everybody. It's a principle.
Yes.
My parents taught me the same thing, believe it or not, many years ago. Well, I'm not that old, right?
Right.
That's only 5. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Many years ago, I would watch my parents tithe,
Mm-hmm.
and I was probably 10, 11, 12.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got into my teenagehood, like I got a job. My first real job was at 14. I think I worked at a grocery store as a courtesy clerk.
Right.
I began to tithe, and it wasn't because I was wanting to have something back from God.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it was mainly because I saw my parents do it,
Right.
and they were teaching me this principle of giving,
Mm-hmm.
and that's found in Scripture. But
Right.
just the idea that so many business people, men and women, use this principle,
Right.
whether they know God or not. They use this principle and they live by it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, I really appreciate you sharing how that has really propelled that one major decision. And I had no idea, guys, what Darren was going to say. I didn't know that he was actually going to say that, but that is an amazing thing. It just goes to show the principle of giving works.
And something to add on top of that, something I've taught my kids, I teach them called the 70-30 rule. 10% to church, 10% to savings, 10% to gifts and travel. And you live off 70%.
Wow.
Because here's the thing, you give, you save, and then what gets everyone in trouble? Christmas and vacations. So if you give 10% to God, 10% to your savings for emergencies, and then 10% for gifts and travel, and live off 70%. Ed Wilgus told me if you ever wanted to be financially independent, though, it has to be a 60-40 rule.
Wow.
10% to church, 20% for savings and investing, 10% for gifts and travel,
Wow.
and live off 60% or less. And
I
as
love
you,
it.
yeah. So that if anyone would just incorporate that, and the thing about teaching your kids, the thing if you have to start it yourself.
That's right.
Yep, start it yourself and do it and do it. And it's like, there's that discipline of whatever you want to do to succeed. It takes discipline, and not. And then I tell people, everyone is not good at everything. So you go to people that have the fruit on the tree.
That's right.
When just for example, I'm a retired Maryland State Trooper. I still, in the state police, I still hold the record for the youngest and fastest supervisor ever promoted in the history of the Maryland State Police, the 100-year history. I got promoted in 4 years. I remember what I did. I didn't go to guys that had been on 10, 12 years. I went to guys that got promoted in 4.5, 5 years. Said, "What'd you do? How'd you do it?" And I remember from the time I came out of the academy, there's 2 manuals like this. There's a patrol manual and an administrative manual. I read the patrol manual 5 times. I read the administrative manual 4 times. Most people never read it once. And so when the time I took the test, 1 to 3 hours a day I studied for 3.5 years. I finished
Wow.
top 10 first time I ever took the test.
Wow.
And I still hold that record. But the thing is discipline. Doing today what others won't, so tomorrow I can live like others can't. And in anything you do, like another little example, I have 2 7th-degree black belts. I have a 3rd black belt. I was a kickboxer. My training was a 3-time world champion. I trained under Barry Smith. He's passed away now. He was the top DT instructor in State Police Academy and is known as best across the nation at one time. I'm a Krav Maga police defense tactic instructor. My point is, if you want to be good, go after people that have fruit on their tree. And then you do the discipline of working hard
Yeah.
and surrounding yourself. It doesn't matter what aspect you are in life.
Yeah.
You look for people with fruit on the tree. If you want spiritual growth, you go to a pastor and say, "Hey, could you help me here?" If you want finances, go here. If you want physical thing, go there. Again, everyone is not great at everything, so you have to seek the guy who has fruit on the tree.
I love that analogy of seeking the person that has fruit on the tree. The Bible says that by their fruit you will know them,
Right.
and that's a spiritual passage. But we can also look at the natural passage as well, from just the natural perspective. If I am looking to be financially fit, and I'm hanging around people that aren't financially fit with no fruit,
Right.
I'm not saying you should not hang around them, but
Right.
what I am saying is that if you have a goal, it's best to get around someone that has that same goal in mind, or that has achieved it, or has walked that same path that you are wanting to walk on. And I think technology is great. Podcasting allows people to pull up YouTube anytime and watch something that they would like to, they aspire, or maybe God's placed in their heart, or maybe someone that wants to start a business, or someone that's in the wants to work in the banking industry or medical industry. If that's what you want, find somebody and learn from them. You may not know them personally, but you can find them on YouTube. You can find other things.
And to add to that simple analogy, success is 3 things. What do you want? Find someone who has it and do what they've done.
Wow.
Success 101.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's real simple.
Real simple.
It's
People complicate it.
It's simple, but there's discipline, which is the hardest piece for a lot of people.
Right.
One of the things that I have here is we talked a little bit about discipline just now. What is discipline for you? And this is an interesting thought, Darren, because I know that you used to be a trooper and you rose up those ranks faster than anyone else in history. Talk to me about what discipline is to you, and did you have discipline before you became a trooper?
Well, I believe that the desire to want more out of life, and now that God has blessed me tremendously, I get inspired to help other people, to give what I've done, because it's easy if you come from success and then you add on, but when you come, I like being the guy who comes from nothing. I like the guy who come from poverty, the guy who didn't meet his dad till he was 36. To the guy that could use all the excuses in the world, but say no. The discipline of again, doing a day what others won't, so tomorrow I can live like others can't. doing the little things.
Yeah.
It's the little things that are doing over and over and over.
Yeah.
Success is boring. Success is very boring. If you want to be successful, it is very boring. It doesn't come like that.
Yeah.
It's just continuously doing the little things over and over and over. And then one day someone says, "Man, you're lucky." It has nothing to do with luck.
No.
It's just continually knowing the right things to do and continue to do them over and over and over.
Let me ask you another question, Darren. I know that you're a disciplined person, and to achieve the things that you've done in your life requires. This is from a spiritual point of view, so I'm sure there are viewers that may not know Jesus, and but you can know him, right?
Right.
And but this principle applies for everybody. If you want to achieve something, discipline is always a part of that.
Right.
And in culture today, we see on YouTube videos and people that do tons of podcasting and just things in general, the microwavable
Right.
success.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at Warren Buffett.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing microwavable about that guy
Right,
whatsoever.
right.
Look at Ed Wilgus.
Right.
Nothing microwavable about Ed at all.
No.
And Ed Wilgus is basically our local Warren Buffett,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And so when I think about you, one of the things I wrote down here is what best financial decisions have you made to help improve the lives of others? Key in this particular question is not your life, but the lives of others. You employ people at your company. Your family comes to church. Hear all of them, and they're very successful. Son in the military, flying planes, and all of these great things, and another son running a business, and you have all these things. But what key financial decision did you make to help other people improve their lives? If you could put your finger on one.
Okay, that's a good question, and I have 5 points that I think I've
Awesome.
done to create success. And the number one thing is every morning I get up, I stretch, I do basic exercises, I read my Bible, I read a leadership book, and I pray. And then I tell people when I get up in the morning and I do basic exercise, I read a leadership book, I read a Bible, I read the Proverbs. When I get done with that, I have done more than 95% of the people in the world. So I expect more than 95% of the people in the world. Because I tell you, you don't get what you want, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you expect. It's all about expectation. I expect to win, and it's because I do those little things over. Like I'm 55, I can still do 60 push-ups in the morning. I can still do 15, 20 pull-ups. You know why? Because in the morning, I do one set of push-ups, one set of sit-ups, one set of leg lifts, one set of pull-ups. I've done it for 30 years.
Wow. Repetition.
And repetition.
Discipline.
Over and over.
Yeah.
And talking about, reading leadership books, reading Proverbs. I read a book one time called Mentored by a Millionaire. And the guy said, if you take Proverbs and you read it, like today is the, 27th? 27th? Yeah,
28th, yeah.
28th. If today I read, 28th. I read that chapter. He said, if you read Proverbs once a day for 2 years, you remember, Solomon was the wisest and wealthiest man that ever lived.
That's true.
He said, if you read Proverbs every day for 2 years, you'll answer every question you have in every aspect of your life.
Wow.
And what happens is you start doing, you start thinking, and you start doing. It's the little things over and over, and it's just repetition, it's just getting better, just
Sure.
fine tuning. But I think that is the number one thing, is doing something to make yourself better. And you talk about books. This book right here, Magic of Thinking Big, next to the Bible, most phenomenal book ever read.
See that book? Magic of Thinking Big.
Yeah, Magic of Thinking Big. Next to the Bible, most phenomenal book ever read.
David J. Swartz, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then I've read that book, and I've just and I remember giving it to Ed again, and he'd read it a long time, but he read it again. He said, "Oh my gosh, I forgot how good that book was."
Yeah.
And he started giving it to all his managers and all his assistant managers. This book right here, I paid my kids $100 to read this.
Did you really?
Yes, each of them. Yeah.
Can I be your child for just a day?
Yeah. And the thing about this book, like I said, it changed my life. And then, and just a little side note, I was Hal Chernoff, the boxing coach, Main Street Boxing. He's a phenomenal guy. Him and Nancy Chernoff, they do a phenomenal job changing kids' lives. And he actually was my mom, my wife, and Hal and Nancy went to my graduate when I graduated as a trooper. I was his first amateur boxer like 35 years ago. But he had me come in and speak to the kids there. And I was telling the kids, I said, I gave my kids $100 to read this book. And I happened to have, and the kids were like, wow, I happened to have $1,000, $100 bills in my car. I walked out to my car and I came in, I said, you know how much I believe in this book? I gave Hal the $1,000. I said, for every kid that reads it, you give him $100.
Wow.
And then he called me and said, I got 8 of them read them. I said, I'll bring over another 1,000 for you. I
Nice.
want all of them because I know what it would do for them.
Wow.
And he said the kids that have
That's
read it,
cool.
he said it's just changing because I know.
Yeah.
And he said, coming from nothing, from being not meeting my dad just Thursday, all those things, you could, a lot of those kids are from those kind of situations. It just, it's neat to see, hey, I can break through.
That's right.
Yep. But this book here, the next book here, How to Win Friends and
Dale
Influence
Carnegie.
People,
Oh,
Dale
yes.
Carnegie.
Great
I
book.
just got done. Ed
Yeah.
Wilgus said it was the book that catapulted him to success. In December, I just got done reading it for the 16th time.
Yeah.
I read it once a year. And I read it and I said, man, I screwed that up again,
Yeah.
And so, and then I have read hundreds of books, and people that I'm close to, I have the top 10 books that I've read out of hundreds and hundreds of books that I feel that has helped, develop me and would help, anybody
Yeah.
to get to that, get to a higher level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So. And I didn't tell you that about those kids to be anything.
Oh, absolutely. No.
I did it because I was looking at those kids and I'm like, one of them, I came from that, you know what I'm saying? And if if I could inspire,
Yeah.
I love to inspire people. I love to have people help them go to another height,
Well,
in life.
I think what you have done when telling the story about the $1,000, what I get from that, Darren, is that you believe in the book. You believe in what you read there, and it touched your life so much. I mean, that you went into your own pocket to give 10 kids $100 every time when they've read that book, because we do know, like, statistics are true, right? And so if 1 out of 10 life has changed with that book, that's a 10% ratio. It's worth it.
Absolutely.
And if they become another Darren Whitehead or go on to become super
Big bang,
successful,
yes.
or whatever the case may be, it was worth that $100,
Right.
right? And so that is inspiring. I think you said you have 4 more things to share
Oh, yeah.
with your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, here's a couple other things. One, that we already talked about. It'd actually be 3 more: tithing and charity. That's my first thing is doing the basic things every morning. The tithing, charity. The other one is having goals. I read a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yep.
And he interviewed the 500 wealthiest men of the time. And he said the only thing he had to come up with that they all had the same is their long-term goals and their short-term goals, and they read them twice a day.
Wow.
And he said that was the only. He said that's what I do. I do that twice a day, and I read them. The other thing that I tell people, if you want to become successful, I use the story of the lion in the circus. The lion, the ringmaster has the chair, and he puts it out, and the lion sits there, and I tell people, do you think the lion is scared of the chair? No, it's the points on the chair. His head does this, and he freezes, and that's when the ringmaster does it. And I tell people, when you go to work and you look at your desk, your head just spins. Where do I start?
Yeah.
I tell people, what I do, I take those little yellow notepads and I write down every night everything I have to do. And then I take 5 things that I put on that list on the second one. And I don't deviate from getting those 5 things done, unless an emergency comes up, then I go back to that 5.
Yep.
And then when those 5 are done, I take another 5.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times I get knocked things out because we can get overloaded, but 5 things.
5 things.
And that is something that that I do, and just that scenario, because just so you know, your average realtor does about 8 to 12 deals a year.
Mm-hmm.
Your top 1% will do 50.
Mm-hmm.
I've done I've done 75 to 154 myself for the last 12 years,
Wow.
and it's myself, not my company, but it's I use that to stay on top of things.
Discipline, brother.
Yeah, discipline.
And you, it sounds like what I'm hearing you saying, Darren, is that you have a rhythm,
Hmm.
and I do believe life does happen like in rhythms for us, and God does give us rhythms
Right.
of our lives. I want to finish up on
Yep.
this one as our time goes down. Uh, if you were giving somebody advice today
Hmm.
about finances,
Hmm.
what is one thing you would tell them that you would do first? Just anybody, whether they're, I mean, just starting out or have been on this journey for a while.
Right.
Could you give somebody one piece of advice?
Yep. It would be one, uh, set yourself a budget, 70-30 rule. 70-30 rule. Start the budget, and then I would start to read, because it would do is you start reading
Hmm.
and having a mentor
Yep.
to lead you. A mentor is so important. But getting a budget, finding a
I love it.
mentor, and start to read. You would be amazed if you did that. Your
Hmm.
life would start turning around.
That is, Darren, I believe that 100%. That 70-30 rule applies to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Those that are either already doing it, haven't done it, or they're over their budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are ways to bring that budget under control
Mm-hmm.
slowly,
Right.
and then do that 70-30.
Mm-hmm.
I love that that other 10 about vacations and just having a good time. Some people don't account for that. I
Yeah.
love how that's in yours. Darren, I appreciate you and your time today, just coming out from your busy schedule, changing your schedule to come
Right.
to be with us
Yeah.
today. Folks, thank you, Darren, for
Thank
coming out.
you. Thank you. It's my honor.
Thanks for joining us today. Until next time, stay financially fit.